welcome. This is Briny Westmid live in the Forbidden Library. And today, her hand tracking. There we go. Come back. Hello. Kitties. Yay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Nimby. Hello, Noble Size Phantom. Hello, Native Gamer. Hello, Kevlar. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are reading. We do have the spreadsheet up, but we're not, the spreadsheet's not going to be here for as long today because I didn't read that much this week. I'm not going to lie. Hello, Lickers. Welcome. So I only have one thing to add to my spreadsheet today, which is a little sad. Just not as much reading done. I have 3 new comics to read. I just didn't get to read them. I only bought them yesterday, so I didn't get around to it. So, 4, 5, 6. Yep, that's where we're up to. I read The Night Circus. How do I spell circus? Circus. Kiss. Sir. Where's the U? It is circus, not circus. Circus. By Erin Morgenstern. Very pretty book. My friend recommended this one to me because they were like, it's the prettiest book I've ever read. Yeah, can't have super productive weeks every week. You're right. And it is very pretty. I wanted to thank you for last time tips on YouTube book copyright, but I always miss your stream. No problem! I'm always happy to answer questions about that sort of thing. More people reading, the better! That's what we want. This was a novel, and it was very good, but I do have to warn, because one of the things that put me off this book when my friend first suggested it to me years ago was the first 5 chapters are basically child torture. It's two old men, like, trying to... Well, this was standalone. Trying to, like, raise these two kids to go into magic battle with each other. And by magic battle, I don't mean they were, like, gonna fight each other. They were basically gonna try one-up each other with spectacle each time. And it was very good. The stuff they come up with is amazing. But you have to get through the first... I really sped through the first 5 chapters to get to the nice bit, because the first 5 chapters are a little rough. But that's all. That is all I read. It's a very good book. I do suggest it. Just careful on those first 5 chapters. Hello, Red Candy Guy. Welcome. So we're really quick on that. This is the first time I've finished talking about my spreadsheet. No, wrong direction. 4. There we go. It starts off on a terrible note to end on a happy note. So it does have a happy ending. You just gotta get through the potential child torture. It's not potential. It is child torture. It's awful at the start. It's awful. I hated it. But then it got better. It gets better. We turned you into a newt. I got better. Rightio, where were we up to with Treasure Island? I mean, is that preferred? I think it's preferred to the reverse. We like a nice ending. I'd prefer a happy ending to a happy start and a not happy ending. Happy endings are more fulfilling than sad endings. Bittersweet is okay, but happy is best. I like happy endings. Where we to? Righty-o, so after his boat adventure in which Jim murdered Mr. Israel Hands, he went back to the stockade to tell them that he had a boat ready for them to go. He knows where the boat is because he's the one who hid it, only to find that the stockade had been traded away. Silver and his men were in there, but Jim's a smart cookie. Jim was like, if you don't kill me and protect me I will be a witness to the courts when you go to face your crimes, and I will do my damnedest to make sure you do not see the gallows. And Silver's like, that's a good proposition, boy. The rest of them weren't as convinced and tried to get Silver taken away as captain, deposed. But it didn't work very well because, honestly, Silver is terrifying. Silver's mere presence and a few yells is enough to take down anyone. He is amazing. However, the Doctor did have a deal with these pirates, so he's been turning up every day to help deal with some of the pirates' injuries and illnesses. So the Doctor has turned up, and now he's going to get a chance to talk to Jim for the first time since he ran away from the stockade many chapters ago. So let's go. The explosion of disapproval, which nothing but Silver's black looks had restrained, broke out immediately. The Doctor had left the house. Silver was roundly accused of playing double, of trying to make a separate peace for himself, of sacrificing the interests of his accomplices and victims, and, in one word, of the identical exact thing that he was doing. It seemed to me so obvious in this case that I could not imagine how he was to turn their anger, but he was twice the man the rest were, and his last night's victory had given him a huge preponderance on their minds. He called them all fools and dolts, you can imagine, and it was necessary, said it was necessary I should talk to the Doctor, fluttered the chart in their faces, asked them if they could afford to break the treaty the very day they were bound a treasure hunting. "No, by thunder!" he cried. "It's us must break the treaty when the time comes. Until then I'll gammon that Doctor, and if I have to, I'll his boots with brandy." And then he bade them get the fire lit, and stalked out upon his crutch, with his hand on my shoulder, leaving them in disarray, and silenced by his own volubility rather than convinced. "Slow, lads, slow," he said. "They might round upon us in a twinkle of an eye if we were seen to hurry." Very deliberately then we did advance across the sand to where the Doctor awaited us on the other side of the stockade, and as soon as we were within easy speaking distance, Silver stopped. "You'll make a note of this here also, Doctor," says he, and the boy'll let you know how I saved his life, and were disposed of for it too. And you lay to that, Doctor. Doctor, and you lay to that. Full stop. Next sentence. Doctor. When a man's steering as near the wind as me, playing chuck farthing with the last breath in his body like, you wouldn't think too much mayhap to give him one good word. You'll please bear in mind it's not my life only now, it's that boy's into the bargain. And you'll speak me fair, Doctor, and give me a bit of hope to go on for the sake of mercy." Go away, free taxes. Yes, we don't need to know about taxes right now. Taxes will just depress everyone. Instead, we're talking about pirates, the opposite of taxes. Silver was a changed man once he was out of there, and had his back to his friends in the blockhouse. His cheeks seemed to have fallen in, his voice trembled. Never was a soul more dead in earnest. "Hello, Exnam! No, you didn't miss much. Silver has marched Jim out of the stockade in order to talk to the Doctor." "Why, John, you're not afraid?" asked Dr. Livesey. "Doctor, I'm no coward. No, not I. Not so much." And he snapped his fingers. "If I was, I wouldn't say it, but I'll own up fairly. I've the shakes upon me for the gallows. You're a good man and true. I never seen a better man. And you'll not forget what I done good. Not any more than you'll forget the bad, I know. And I step aside, you see here, and leave you and Jim alone. And you'll put that down for me too, for it's a long stretch, is that? Silver's getting pretty desperate, or is he just acting well? It's hard to tell. So saying, he stepped back a little way, till he was out of earshot, and there sat down upon a tree stump, and began to whistle, spinning round now and again upon his seat, so as to command a sight, sometimes of me, the doctor, and sometimes of his unruly ruffians, as they went to and fro in the sand between the fire, which they were busily rekindling, and the house, from which they brought forth pork and bread to make the breakfast. So, Jim, said the doctor sadly, here you are. As you have brewed, so shall you drink, my boy. Heavens knows I cannot find it in my heart to blame you, but this much I will say, be it kind or unkind, when Captain Smollett was well, you dared not have gone off, and when he was ill, and couldn't help it, by George, it was downright cowardly. I will own that I here began to weep. Doctor, I said, you might spare me. I have blamed myself enough. My life's forfeit, anyway, and I should have been dead by now if Silver hadn't stood for me. And, doctor, believe this, I can die. I dare say I deserve it, but what I fear is torture. If they come to torture me— Jim, the doctor interrupted. His voice was quite changed. Jim, I can't have this. Whip over, we'll run for it. Doctor, said I passed my word. I know, he cried. We can't help that, Jim, now. I'll take it on my shoulders. Hollis, bolus, blame and shame, my boy, but stay here. I cannot let you. Jump! One jump, and you're out. And we'll run for it like antelopes. Oh, bless the doctor. The doctor thought he ran away for, like, his own sake. But it's like, nope, can't leave this boy. I can't leave him. But you have to. Oh, bless his cotton socks. No, I replied. You know right well you wouldn't do the thing yourself. Neither you nor squire nor captain, and no more will I. Silver trusted me. I passed my word, and back I go. But, doctor, you did not let me finish. If they come to torture me, I might let slip a word of where the ship is. For I got the ship, part by luck and part by risking, and she lives in North Inlet on the southern beach, and just below high water, and half tide she might be high and dry. The ship? Exclaimed the doctor. Rapidly I described to him my adventures, and he heard me out in silence. There is a kind of fate in this, he observed when I had done. Every step it's you that saves our lives, and do you suppose by any chance that we're going to let you lose yours? That would be a poor return, my boy. You found out the plot. You found Ben Gunn, the best deed that you ever did, nor will do, though you live to 90. Oh, by Jupiter, and talking of Ben Gunn, why, this is the mischief in person. Silver, he cried, Silver, I'll give you a piece of advice, he continued as the cook drew near again. Don't you be in any great hurry after that treasure. Why, sir, I do my possible, which that ain't, said Silver. I can only ask your pardon, save my life and the boys by seeking for that treasure, and you may lay to that. Well, Silver, replied the doctor, if that is so, I'll go one step further. Look out for squalls when you find it. Sir, said Silver, as between man and man, that's too much and too little. That you're after. Why, you left the blockhouse. Why, you given me the chart. And I don't know now, do I? And yet I done your bidding with my eyes shut at every word of hope. But no, this is too much. If you won't tell me what you mean played out, just say so and I'll leave the helm. No, said the doctor musingly. You've no right to say more. It's not my secret, you see, Silver. Or, I give you my word, I tell it to you. But I'll go as far with you as I dare go, and a step beyond, for I'll have my wig sorted by the captain, or I'm mistaken. And first, I'll give you a bit of hope, Silver. If we both get alive out of this wolf trap, I'll do my best to save you, short of perjury. Silver's face was radiant. You couldn't say more, I'm sure, sir, not if you was my mother, he cried. Well, that's my first concession, added the doctor. My second piece of advice, keep the boy close behind you, and when you need help, halloo. I'm off to seek it for you, and that itself will show you if I speak at random. Goodbye, Jim. And Dr. Livesley shook hands with me through the stockade, nodded to Silver, and set off at a brisk pace into the woods. Tea. Chapter 31. The Treasure Hunt. Flint's Pointer. Jim, said Silver when we were alone, if I saved your life, you saved mine, and I'll not forget it. I've seen the doctor waving you to run for it, with the tail of my eye I did, and I seen you say no, as plain as hearing. Jim, that's one to you. This is the first glint of hope I had seen since the attack failed, and I owe it to you. And now, Jim, we've to go in for this here treasure hunting, with sealed orders too, and I don't like it. And you and me must stick close back to the back like, and we'll save our necks in spite of fate and fortune. Just then a man hailed us from the fire that breakfast was ready, and we were soon seated here and there about the sand over biscuit and fried junk. They had lit a fire fit to roast an ox, and it was now grown so hot that they could only approach it from windward, and even there not without precaution. In the same wasteful spirit they had cooked, I suppose, 3 times more than we could eat, and one of them, with an empty laugh, threw what was left into the fire, which blazed and roared again over his unused fuel. I never in my life saw men so careless of the morrow. Hand to mouth is the only word that can describe their way of doing it. And what with wasted food and sleeping sentries, though they were bold enough for a brush and be done with it, I could see their entire unfitness for anything like a prolonged campaign. Even Silver, eating away with Captain Flint on his shoulder, had not a word of blame for their recklessness, and this the more surprised me, for I thought he had never shown himself so cunning as he did then. Aye, mates, said he, it's unlucky to have barbecue to think. It's lucky we have barbecue to think for you with this here head. I got what I wanted, I did. Sure enough, they have the ship. Where they have it, I don't know yet. But once we hit the treasure, we'll have to jump about and find out. And then, mates, us as the boats, I reckon, has the upper hand. Thus he kept running on, with his mouth full of hot bacon. Thus he restored their hope and confidence, and I, more than suspect, repaired his own at the same time. And drink. Tea! The tea is gone now, though. we're on to the water, which I probably will need to refill at some point, because I didn't refill it before the stream, like a smart cookie. As for the hostage, he continued, that's his last talk. I guess with them he loves so dear. I've got my piece of news, and thank ye to him for that. But it's over and done. I'll take him in line when we go treasure hunting, for we'll keep him like so much gold in case of accidents. You mark, and in the meantime, once we got the ship and treasure both, and off to sea like jolly companions, why, then we'll talk Mr. Hawkins over. We will, and we'll give him his share, to be sure, for all his kindness. It was no wonder the men were in a good humour now. For my part, I was horribly cast down. Should the scheme he had now sketched prove feasible, Silver, already doubly a traitor, would not hesitate to adopt it. He had still a foot in either camp, and there was no doubt he preferred wealth and freedom with the pirates to a bare escape from hanging, which was the best he had to hope on our side. Nay, and even if things fell out that he was forced to keep his faith with Dr. Livesey, even then, what danger lay before us? What a moment that would be when the suspicions of his followers turned to certainty, and he and I should have to fight for dear life. He a cripple and I a boy, against 5 strong, active seamen who apparently have the spines of glass. Add to this double apprehension the mystery that still hung over the behaviour of my friends, their unexplained desertion of the stockade, their inexplicable cession of the chart, or harder still to understand the doctor's last warning to Silver. Look out for the squalls when you find it. And you will readily believe how little taste I found in my breakfast, and with how uneasy a heart I set forth behind my captors on a quest for treasure. We made a curious figure, and had anyone been there to see us, all in soiled sailor clothes, and all but me armed to the teeth. Silver had 2 guns slung about him, one before and one behind, besides the great cutlass at his waist, and a pistol in each pocket of his square tailor coat. To complete his strange appearance, Captain Flint sat perched upon his shoulder, and grabbing odds and ends of purposeless sea talk. I had a line about my waist, and followed obediently after the sea cook, who held the loose end of rope, now in his free hand, now between his powerful teeth. For all the world, I was led like a dancing bear. Poor kid. Literally between his teeth. Oh my gosh. Now I wanna look at this closer. I was trying to zoom in, but it kind of zoomed in too far. Let's zoom in on here. I need to see this in better detail. Currently reading. No, that's not the right currently reading. I have 2 sources called currently reading, and only one of them is this. That's one way to keep your child from running away. Parents, have you considered this? We've got Jim on a child harness. Have you considered keeping your child harness between your teeth? I'm sure that won't result in any trips to the dentist that we need. One more like that. Is this bigger or smaller? I know, the old illustrations are just so pretty. They're so good. The other men were voraciously burthened, by some carrying picks and shovels. For that I had been the very first necessary they brought ashore from the Hispaniola. Others laden with pork, bread, and brandy for the midday meal. They are the best. They're wonderful. Give my child to a one-legged, possibly cannibalistic pirate. Now you mention it. With a child harness. Very important. It's the important facts you got to put on here. All the stores, I observed, came from our stock, and I could see the truth of Silver's words the night before. Had he not struck a bargain with the doctor, and his mutineers, deserted by the ship, must have been driven to subsist on clear water and the proceeds of their hunting. Water would have been little to their taste. A sailor is not usually a good shot, and besides all that, when they were so short of eatables, not edibles. Hello, Boris, welcome. It was not likely they would be very flush of powder. Well, thus equipped, we all set out, even the fellow with the broken head, who should certainly have kept in shadow, and straggled, one after another, to the beach where 2 gigs awaited us. Even these bore trace of the drunken folly of the pirates, one in a broken thought, and both in their muddy and unbailed condition. Both were to be carried along with us for the sake of safety, and so, with our numbers divided between them, we set forth upon the bosom of the anchorage. As we pulled over, there was some discussion on the chart. The Red Cross was, of course, far too large to be a guide, and the terms of the note on the back, as you will hear, admitted of some ambiguity. The reader may remember this. Tall tree, spyglass shoulder, bearing a point to north of north-northeast. Skeleton Island, east-southeast by east 10 feet. A tall tree was thus the principal mark. Now, right before us, the anchorage was bound by a plateau, from 2 to 300 feet high, adjoining the north and the sloping southern shoulder of the spyglass, and rising against the south into the rough, cliffy eminence called the mizzenmast hill. The top of the plateau was dotted thickly with pine trees of varying heights. Every here and there one of a different species rose 40 or 50 feet clear above its neighbours, and which of these was the particular tall tree of Captain Flint could only be decided on the spot, and by the readings of the compass. Yet, although that was the case, every man on board the boats had picked a favourite of his own air. We were halfway over, Long John alone struggling his shoulders and bidding them wait till they were there. Sorry. We pulled easily by Silver's directions, not too wary of the hands prematurely, and after quite a long passage, landed at the mouth of the second river, that which runs down a woody cleft of the spyglass. Thence, bending to our left, we began to ascend the slope towards the plateau. At the first outset, Tella! Hello, thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. I hope you enjoy some Treasure Island. Yeah. At the first outset, heavy, miry ground and a matted, marish vegetation greatly delayed our progress. But by little and little the hill began to steepen and become stony underfoot, and the wood to change its character and to grow in a more open order. It was indeed a most pleasant portion of the island that we were now approaching, a heavy scented broom that many flowering shrubs had almost taken the place of grass. Thickets of green nutmeg trees were dotted here and there with the red columns and the broad shadow of the pines, and the first mingled their spice with the aroma of the others. The air, besides, was fresh and stirring, and this, under the sheer sunbeams, was a wonderful refreshment to our senses. The party spread itself abroad in a fan shape, shouting and leaping to and fro, about the centre and a good way behind the rest. Silver and I followed, I tethered by my rope, he ploughing, and with deep pants among the sliding gravel. From time to time, indeed, I had to lend him a hand, or he must have missed his footing and fallen backwards down the hill. We had thus proceeded for about half a mile, and we were approaching the bow of the plateau, when the man upon the farthest left began to cry aloud, as if in terror. Shout after shout came from him, and the others began to run in his direction. "He can't have found the treasure," cried old Morgan, hurrying past from the right, "for that's a cleaner top." How deep could the pants be? So deep. So deep pants. The deepest pants. Hello, CX6, welcome. Oh Lord, you're in both chats. Ah! Indeed, as we found when we also reached the spot, it was something very different. I'm sorry, a bug just go away. Go away. A bug just flew on my screen. I was trying to read and then there's a bug. I'm like, go away. Indeed, as we found when we also reached the spot, it was also something different. At the foot of a pretty big pine and involved in a green creeper. Oh no, not a creeper. The bug wants to join. No, the bug is not joining. The bug is stupid. It needs to get out of the way. At least it fly to her mouth. Good point. Old-timey equivalent of cargo pants. Deep pants are cargo pants? Wonderful. They are pretty deep pants. If you think about it. Cargo shorts. So deep, bro. Indeed. As we found when we also... Where was it? Green creeper, that was it. Which had even partly lifted some of the smaller bones. A human skeleton lay, with a few shreds of clothing. On the ground, I believe, a chill struck for a moment to every heart. "He was a seaman," said George Merry, who, bolder than the rest, had gone up close and was examining the rags of clothing. "Leastways, this is good sea cloth." "Aye, aye," said Silver. "Like enough you wouldn't look to find a bishop here, I reckon. But what sort of a way is that for bones to lie? 'Tain't nature." Indeed, on a second glance, it seemed impossible to fancy that the body in a natural position, but for some disarray, the work perhaps of the birds that fell upon him, or of the slow-growing creeper that had gradually enveloped his remains, the man lay perfectly straight, his feet pointing in one direction, his hands raised above his head, like a diver pointing directly in the opposite. "I've taken a notion into my old numbskull," observed Silver. That is a wonderful way of saying I have an idea. We should use that more often. That's another one that needs to come into modern slang. I've taken a notion into my old numbskull, guys. Here's the compass. Here's the tip-top pointing of the skeleton island, sticking out like a tooth. Just take a bearing, will ya? Along the lines of them bones. Hello, Dennis Garber, welcome. It was done. The body pointed straight in the direction of the island, and the compass read duly east-south-east and by east. A bullet of knowledge has fired into my cranium. I could see a certain invention from those Thomas Edisons. A notion into my old numbskull. Lovely, lovely phrasing, everyone. And also, cried the cook, this is the pointer, right? Up there's our line for the Pole Star and the Jolly Dollars. But by thunder, if it don't make me cold inside to think of Flint. This is one of his jokes. And no mistake, him and these 6 was alone here. He killed 'em, every man. And this one he hauled here and laid down by compass. Shiver me timbers. There be their long bones, and the air's been yellow. Aye, that would have been Allardyce. You mind Allardyce, Tom Morgan? Aye, returned Morgan, I mind him. He owed me money, he did, and took my knife ashore with him. Speaking of knives, said another, why don't we find his lying around? Flint warn't a man to pick up a seaman's pocket, and the birds, I guess, would leave it be. By the powers, that's true, cried Silver. There ain't a thing left here, said Mary, still feeling round the bones. Not a copper, doint nor bassy box. It don't look like natural to me. No, by gum, it don't. Probably 'cause, Ben's been here, probably. Mr. Gunn. Not natural, nor not nice, says you. Great guns, messmates. But if Flint was living, this would be a hot spot for you and me. 6 they were, and 6 are we. The bones that is what they are now. I saw him dead with these here deadlights, said Morgan. Billy took me in. There he laid with penny pieces on his eyes. Dead, eh? Sure enough, he's dead and gone below, said the fellow with the bandages. I don't know what pirate is speaking. I have one pirate voice, so we're going to have to live with my one pirate voice. But if ever spirit walked, it would be Flint's, dear art. But he died bad, did Flint. Aye, he did, that he did, observed another. Now he raged, and now he hollered for rum, and now he sang 15 men were his only song mates. And I tell you true, I never rightly liked to hear it since. It was May not, and the wind was open, and I hear that old song coming out as clear as day, and the death all on the man already. The pirate Borg is talking. Pirate Borg will talk. I think back to the first SpongeBob movie. I think pirate voices, that's fun. Or just imagine they all have like a cup they use for pirate voice they share. Because it's the traditional pirate voice. Correct. Come, said Silver. Stow this talk, he's dead. And he don't walk. That I know, leastways. He won't walk by day, and you may lay to that. Care killed a cat. Fetch Ed for the doubloons. We started, certainly, but in spite of the hot sun and the staring daylight, the pirates no longer ran separate, and shouting through the woods, but kept side by side, and spoke with bated breath. The terror of the dead buccaneer had fallen on their spirits. Chapter 32. The treasure hunt. The voice among the trees. Still leading his child by the child harness. I love this. This is so silly. Come on, child. Okay, Dad. So silly. I love it. There we go, perfect. Partly from the dampening influence of this alarm, partly to rest Silver and the sick folk, the whole party sat down as soon as they had gained the brow of the ascent. The voice along the cheese. Voice along the cheese. The treasure was the cheese we found along the way. The plateau being somewhat tilted towards the west, this spot on which we had paused commanded a wide prospect on either hand. Before us, over the treetops, we beheld the cape of the woods infringed with surf. Behind, we not only looked down upon the anchorage and Skeleton Island, we saw, clear across the spit and the eastern lowlands, a great field of open sea upon the east. Sheer above us rose the spyglass, here dotted with single pines, there black with precipices. There was no sound but that of the distant breakers mounting from all round, and the chirp of countless insects in the bush. The sacred parmesan! Not a man, not a sail upon the sea. The very largeness of the view increased the sense of solitude. Silver, as he sat, took certain bearings with his compass. There are 3 tall trees, said he, about in right line from Skeleton Island. Spyglass shoulder, I take it, means that lower point there. It's child's play to find the stuff now. I've half a mind to dine first. I don't feel sharp, growled Morgan. Thinking, old Flint, I think it has done me. Ah, well, my son, your praise, your stars, he's dead, said Silver. He were an ugly devil, cried a third pirate with a shudder. That blue in the face, too. Then how was the rum took him? Added Mary. Blue! Well, reckon he was blue. That's a true word. Ever since they found the skeleton and got upon this train of thought, they had spoken lower and lower, and they almost got to whispering by now, so that the sound of their talk hardly interrupted the silence of the wood. All of a sudden, out of the middle of the trees in front of us, a thin, high, trembling voice struck up the well-known air in words. 15 men on a dead man's chest, yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. I have a confession. I am learning the real Treasure Planet plot with Brain. I always thought it was the same as the Treasure Planet cartoon. That's okay. We're learning too. I haven't seen Muppets Treasure Island, so Treasure Planet was the only adaptation I've seen of this book. So I too am learning. Imagine these guys' reaction to the Home Depot skeletons. I've never seen men more dreadfully affected than the pirates. The colour went from their 6 faces like enchantment. Some leapt to their feet, some clawed hold of others. Morgan grovelled on the ground. It's Flint Bite! Cried Mary. The song had stopped as suddenly as it began, broken off. You would have said in the middle of a note, as though someone had laid a hand upon its singer's mouth. God damn it, Ben. This is my first time with the story, and my only other exposure is Treasure Planet and the Dr. Lively from the Russian adaptation. Then there's me watching Fire. I love how you do your study before this, Normal Size Phantom. You find all the adaptations you can. I found speaking of adaptations, one of the things I did do this week was I looked at like Netflix, Disney, Amazon for any adaptations of Wuthering Heights and Pride and Prejudice, and I found at least one movie of either that I can watch for free, and at least one TV show or both that I have to pay for. But it's great, and I'm excited to see any adaptations of them after reading the books. It's gonna be great. Yeah, normal size phantom is not the standard. Normal size phantom is above average, not the standard when it comes to studying the books studying adaptations of books. If you ever read Three Musketeers, I'll be set because they already owe like 10 adaptations. Well, I'll just have to do that for you for fun. Coming through the clear, sunny atmosphere among the green treetops, I thought it sounded airily and sweetly, and the effect on my companions was the stranger. "Come," said Silver, struggling with his ashen lips to get the words out. "This won't do. Stand by, go about. This is a rum start, and I can't name the voice, but it's someone skylarking. Someone that's flesh and blood, and you may lay to that." His courage had come back as he spoke, and some of the colour to his face along with it. Already the others had begun to lend an ear to this encouragement, and were coming a little to themselves, when the same voice broke out again, not this time singing, but in a faint, distant hail that echoed yet fainter among the clefts of the spyglass. "Darby McGraw!" it wailed, for that is the word that best describes the sound. "Darby McGraw! Darby McGraw!" Again and again and again, then rising a little higher, and with an oath that I leave out, "Fetch aft the rum, Darby!" Ew! 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 I think there was a teased Wuthering Heights remake, and the tweet got filled with Limbus Company. That makes sense. I've gobbled Musketeers as a kid, but then I started 20 years later about Atzo's Son, and sort of got lazy, never finished it. The Buccaneers remained rooted to the ground, their eyes staring from their heads. Long after the voice had died away, they still stared in silence, dreadfully before them. "That fixes it!" gasped one. "Let's go!" "They want his last words!" Morgan moaned. "His last words above board!" Dick had his Bible out, and was praying volubly. He had been well brought up, had Dick, before he came to sea, and fell among bad companions. Still, Silver was unconquered. I could hear his teeth rattled in his head, but he had not yet surrendered. "Nobody in this here island never heard of Darby," he muttered. "Not one but us that's here." Ben Gunn, Ben Gunn, Ben Gunn, Ben Gunn, Ben Gunn, Ben Gunn, Ben Gunn. And then, making a great effort, "Shipmates!" he cried. "I'm here to get that stuff, and I'll not be beat by a man nor devil. I never feared a flint in his life, and by the powers I'll face him dead. There's £700,000 not a quarter of a mile from here. When did ever a gentleman of fortune show his stern to that much dollar a boozy old seaman with a blue mug? And him dead too." But there was no sign of reawakening courage in his followers, rather indeed of growing terror at the irreverence of his words. "Belay there, John," said Mary. "Don't you cross the spirit." And the rest were all too terrified to reply. They would have run away severely had they dared, but fear kept them together, and kept them close by John, and if his daring helped them, as if his daring helped them. He, on his part, had pretty well fought his weakness down. "Spirit? Well, maybe," he said, "but there's one thing not clear to me." There was an echo. "Now, no man ever seen a spirit with a shadow. Well then, what's he doing with an echo? To him, I should like to know. That ain't in nature, surely." Pulling at straws there, grasping at straws about spirits. This argument seemed weak enough to me, but you can never tell what will affect the superstitious, and to my wonder, George Merry was greatly relieved. Spirits like alcohol, we wish. Spirits like dead people. Ooh. I think you should be able to just and like put someone's name. I think normal size phantom is an awkward one because normal size phantom has like the dash. Ooh. Spit. "Well, that's so," he said. "You've a heard upon your shoulders, John, and no mistake. About shipmates. This here crew is on a wrong track, I do believe. And come to think of it, it was like Flint's voice, I grant you, but not so clear away like it, after all. It was like somebody else's voice now. It was like a... By the powers, Ben gone! Charging a power." "It don't take much odds now. Take much odds do it now?" asked Dick. "Ben Gunn's not here in the body any more'n Flint." "Aye, were it so," cried Morgan, springing to his... I completely missed this tiny bit. It's fine. "Aye, were it so," cried Morgan, springing on his knees. "Ben Gunn it were. But again, Ben Gunn's dead." But the old hands greeted his remark with scorn. "Why, nobody minds Ben Gunn," cried Mary. "Dead or alive, nobody minds him." Oh, they really don't care about him. But oh, it was Ben Gunn. Oh, I don't care. Bless. It was extraordinary how their spirits had returned, and how the natural colour had revived their faces. Soon they were chatting together with intervals of listening, and not long after, hearing no further sound, they shouldered the tools and set forth again, Mary walking first with Silver's compass to keep them on the right line with Skeleton Island. He had said the truth, dead or alive. Nobody minded Ben Gunn. Dick alone still held his Bible, and looked around him as he went, with fearful glances, but he found no sympathy, and Silver even joked on his precautions. "I told you," he said, "I told you you'd slipped your Bible. If it ain't no good to swear by, what do you suppose a spirit would give it for? Not that." And he snapped his big fingers, halting a moment on his crutch. But Dick was not to be comforted. Indeed, it was soon plain to me that the lad was falling sick. Hastened by heat, exhaustion, and the shock of his alarm, the fever predicted by Dr. Livesey was evidently growing swiftly higher. It was a fine open walking here. Upon the summit our way lay a little downhill, for, as I have said, the plateau tilted towards the west. The pines, great and small, grew wide apart, and even between the clumps of nutmeg and azalea, wide open spaces baked in the hot sunshine. Striking as we did pretty near northwest across the island, we drew on the one hand ever nearer under the shoulders of the spyglass, and on the other looked ever wider over that western bay where I had once tossed and trembled in a crackle. The first of the tall trees was reached, and by the bearings proved the wrong one. So, with the second, the third rose nearly 200 feet into the air above a clump of underwood, a giant of a vegetable, with a great red column as big as a cottage, and a wide shadow around, in which a company could have manoeuvred. It was conspicuous how far to see, both on the east and west, it might have been entered as a sailing mark upon the chart. But it was not its size that now impressed my companions. It was the knowledge that 700,000 pounds in gold lay somewhere buried below its spreading shadow. The thought of the money as they drew nearer swallowed up their previous terrors. Their eyes burned into their heads, their feet grew speedier and lighter. Their whole soul was bound up in that fortune, that whole lifetime of extravagance and pleasure that lay waiting there for each of them. Silver hobbled, grunting on his clutch. His nostrils stood out and quivered. He cursed like a madman when the flies settled on his hot and shiny countenance. He plucked furiously at the line that held me to him, and from time to time turned his eye upon me with a deadly look. Certainly he took no pains to hide his thoughts, and certainly I read them like print. In the immediate nearness of the gold, all else had been forgotten. His promise and the doctor's warning were both things of the past, and I could not doubt that he hoped to seize upon the treasure, find and board the Hispaniola under cover of night, cut every honest throat about that island, and sail away as he had at first intended, laden with crimes and riches. Shaken as I was with these alarms, it was hard for me to keep up with the rapid pace of the treasure hunters. Now and again I stumbled, and it was then that Silver plucked so roughly at the rope, and launched me his murderous glances. Dick, who had dropped behind us, now brought up the rear, was babbling to himself both prayers and curses as his fever kept rising. This also added to my wretchedness, and to crown all, I was haunted by the thought of the tragedy that had once been acted on that plateau, when that ungodly buccaneer with the blue face, he who had died at Savannah, singing and shouting for drink, had there, with his own hand, cut down his 6 accomplices. This grove was now so peaceful, must then have rung with cries, I thought, and even with the thought, I could hardly believe I heard it ringing still. We were now at the margin of the thicket. "Huzzah, mates, all together!" shouted Merry, and the foremost broke into a run. And suddenly, not 10 yards further, we beheld them stop. A loud cry arose. Silver doubled his pace, digging away with the foot of his crutch like one possessed, and next moment he and I had come also to a dead halt. Before us was a great excavation, not very recent, for the sides had fallen in and grass had sprouted on the bottom. In this were the shaft of a pick broken in two, and the boards of several packing cases strewn about. On one was the boards of a saw, branded with a hot iron, the name Walrus, the name of Flint's ship. All was clear to the probation. The cash had been found and rifled. The £700 were gone. £700,000, sorry, not £700. That's not even that much. Oh no. Chapter 33. The Fall of a Chieftain. There was never such an overturn in this world. Each of these 6 men was as though he had been struck, but with Silver the blow passed almost instantly. Dun, dun, dun. Gee, I wonder who could have done it. Not the guy who's been here his entire 3 whole goddamn years. I have to go. I want to watch more, but I need to train in speaking my presentation for tomorrow. Oh, good luck with your presentation. Funny thing here is that it is about a Latvian book writer called Anna Saxe. Well, good luck with that. Public speaking is very skewy, but I believe in you. You'll do great. Go practice, and you'll kick its butt tomorrow. £700,000? That's way more than the folks at Wuthering Heights. Probably is, yeah. But with Silver the blow passed almost instantly. Every thought of his soul had been set full stretch, like a racer on that money. Well, he was brought up in a single second dead, and he kept his head, found his temper, and changed his plan before the others had time to realise the disappointment. "Jim," he whispered, "take that, and stand by for trouble." And he passed me a double-barrelled pistol. At the same time, he began quietly moving northward, and in a few steps had to put the hollow between the 2 of us and the other 5. Then he looked at me and nodded, as much as to say, here is a narrow corner, as indeed I thought it was. His looks were not quite friendly, and I was so revolted at these constant changes that I could not forbear whispering, "So you've changed sides again?" There was no time left for him to answer, and the buccaneers, with oaths and cries, began to leap, one after another, into the pit, and dig with their fingers, throwing the boards aside as they did so. Morgan found a piece of gold. He held it up with a perfect spout of oaths. It was a 2-guinea piece, and it went from hand to hand among them for a quarter of a minute. "2 guineas!" roared Mary, shaking it at Silver. "That's your £700,000, is it? You're the man for bargains, ain't you? You're him that never bungled nothing, you wooden-headed lubber." "Dig away, boys," said Silver with the coolest insolence. "You'll find some pig nuts, I shouldn't wonder." "Pig nuts? Truffles? ? Repeated Mary. Or, shit. One or the other. Repeated Mary in a scream. "Mates, do you hear that? I tell you now, that man there knew it all along. Look in the face of him, and you'll see it wrote there." "Ah, Mary," remarked Silver, "standing for captain again. You're a pushing lad, to be sure." But this time everyone was entirely in Mary's favour. They began to scramble out of the excavation, darting furious glances between them. One thing I observed, which looked well for us, they all got out upon the opposite side from Silver. Well, there we stood, 2 on one side, 5 on the other, the pit between us, and nobody screwed up high enough to offer the first blow. Silver never moved. He watched them, very upright on his crutch, and looked as cool as ever I saw him. He was brave, and no mistake. Oh my god, that's 131.75 million in today's money? Holy shit. That's way more than the Wuthering Heights, folks. That's crazy. That's fair. I might go crazy for that amount of money. Like, if I'm already going to the gallows, that's not even taking into account purchasing power differences. Ah! They'd be feckin' minted. At last, Mary seemed to think a speech might help matters. Mates, says he, there's two of them alone there. One's the old cripple that brought us all here and blundered us down to this. The other's that cob that I mean to have the heart of. Now, mates, he was raising his arm and his voice. The plainly meant to lead the charge. But just then, crack, 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 3 musket shots flashed out of the thickets. Mary tumbled head foremost into the excavation. The man with the bandage spun round like a tedium, and fell all his length upon his side, where he lay dead, but twitching, and the other 3 turned and ran for it with all their might. 3 down. 2 down, 3 to go. Crack, crack, crack. Before you could wink, Long John had fired 2 barrels of a pistol into the struggling Mary, and as the man rolled up his eyes at him in the last agony, "George," he said, "I reckon I settled you." At the same moment, the doctor, Gray, and Ben Gunn joined us with smoking muskets from among the nutmeg trees. "Forward!" cried the doctor. "Double quick, my lads. We must head 'em off the boats." And we set off at a great pace, sometimes plunging through the bushes to the chest. I tell you, but Silver was anxious to keep up with us. The work that man went through, leaping on his crutch till the muscles of his chest were fit to burst, was work no sound man ever equalled. And so thinks the doctor. As it was, he was already 30 yards behind us, on the verge of strangling when we reached the bow of the slope. "Doctor!" he yelled us. "See there! No hurry!" Dang, you could buy Twitter with that kind of money. If only that was a good investment and not, a waste of money. Sure enough, there was no hurry. In a more open part of the plateau, we could see the 3 survivors still running in the same direction as they had started, right for Mizzenmast Hill. We were already between them and the boats, so we 4 sat down to breathe, while Long John, mopping his face, came slowly up with us. "Thank you kindly, doctor," says he. "You came in about the nick of time, I guess, for me and Hawkins. And so it's you, Ben Gunn," he added. "Well, you're a nice one, to be sure." "I'm Ben Gunn, yes I am," replied the maroon, wriggling like an eel in his embarrassment. "And," he added after a long pause, "how do, Mr. Silver? Pretty well, thank ye, says you." Ben, murmured Silver, "I think as you've done me." The doctor sent back Gray for one of the pickaxes deserted in their flight by the mutineers. And then, as we proceeded leisurely downhill to where the boats were laying, related in a few words what had taken place. It was a story that profoundly interested Silver, and Ben Gunn, the half-idiot maroon, was their hero from beginning to end. Ben, in his long, lonely wanderings about the island, had found the skeleton. It was he that had rifled it. He had found the treasure. He had dug it up. It was the haft of his pickaxe that lay broken in the excavation. He had carried it on his back in many weary journeys from the foot of the tall pine to a cave he had on a two-pointed hill at the northeast angle of the island, and there it had lain stored safely since 2 months before the arrival of the Hispaniola. When the doctor had wormsommed this secret from him on the afternoon of the attack, and when the morning he saw the anchorage deserted, he had gone to Silver, given him the chart, which was now useless, given him the stores, for Ben Gunn's cave was well supplied with goat's meat and goat's meat salted by himself, given anything and everything to get a chance of moving in safety from the stockade to the two-pointed hill, there to be clear of malaria and keep a guard upon the money. As for you, Jim, he said, it went against my heart, but I did what I thought best for those who had stood by their duty, and if you were not one of these, whose fault was it? Hello, Howdy. You missed a little bit, yes. I will quickly catch you up, though. So, Silver and Jim and those lot went treasure hunting. They found the treasure, but it already had been picked clean by Mr. Ben Gunn. The other 5 that they were with were very mad at this and tried to kill them for it, but between Silver's sharpshooting and the doctor, Ben Gunn, and a few of their people coming out to help them, most of them have ran off. And they are going to the cave where Ben Gunn lived, and Ben Gunn stored the treasure, because he also had a lot of food on him, which is why they gave up the stockade, because they no longer needed the supplies there, and they no longer needed the treasure chart, which is why the doctor gave them the treasure chart and the supplies, because they were good, thanks to Ben Gunn. That morning, finding that I was to be involved in the horrid disappointment he had prepared for the mutineers, he had run all the way to the cave, and leaving the squire to guard the captain, had taken Grey and the Maroon and started making the diagonal across the island to be at hand beside the pine. Soon, however, he saw that our party had the start of him, and Ben Gunn, being fleet of foot, had been dispatched in front to do his best alone. Then it had occurred to him to the work of the superstitious of his former shipmates, and he was so far successful that Grey and the doctor had come up and were already ambushed before the arrival of the treasure hunters. Oh, so he literally, spoke just to, spook them and slow them down. Oh, that's smart. Silver did not get his silvers, indeed. Operation Bamboozle was, in fact, a huge success. Ah, said Silver, it were fortunate for me that I had Hawkins here. You would have let old John be cut to bits, and never given it a thought, Doctor. Not a thought, replied Livesley cheerfully. And by this time we had reached the gigs. The doctor, with the pickaxe, demolished one of them, and then we all got aboard the other and set out to go round by sea for the North Inlet. This was a run of 8 or 9 miles. Silver thought he was almost killed already with fatigue, was set an oar, like the rest of us, and we were soon skimming swiftly over a smooth sea. Soon we passed out of the straits, and doubled the southeast corner of the island, round which 4 days ago we had towered the Hispaniola. You're not going to believe this. The HMS Victory was built in the 1760s at the cost of £63,000. You could build 10 with that treasure. Oh my god. That really does bring into, perspective why they are so crazy for this. Doctor was like, I'll sell you for a bag of gums. As we passed the two-pointed hill, we could see the black mouth of Ben Gunn's cave, and a figure standing by it, leaning on a musket. It was the squire, and we waved a handkerchief and gave him 3 cheers, in which the voice of Silver joined as heartily as any. 3 miles farther, just inside the mouth of North Inlet, what should we meet but the Hispaniola, cruising by herself? The last flood had lifted her, and had there been much wind or a strong tide current, as in the southern anchorage, we should have never found her more, or found her stranded beyond help. As it was, there was little amiss beyond the wreck of the mainsail. Another anchor was got ready and dropped in a fathom and a half of water. We all pulled round again to Rum Cove, the nearest point for Ben Gunn's treasure house, and then Grey, single-handed, returned with the gig to the Hispaniola, where he was to pass the night on guard. A gentle slope ran up from the beach to the entrance of the cave. At the top the squire met us. To me he was cordial and kind, saying nothing of my escapade, either in the way of blame or praise. At Silver's polite salute he was somewhat flushed. "John Silver," he said, "you're a prestigious villain and impostor, a monstrous impostor, sir. I am told I am not to prosecute you. Well, then I will not. But the dead men, sir, hang about your neck like millstones." "Thank you kindly, sir," replied Long John, again saluting. "I dare you to thank me," cried the squire. "It is a gross dereliction of my duty. Stand back." And thereupon we all entered the cave. It was a large, airy place with little spring and a pool of clear water, overhung with ferns. The floor was sand. Before a big fire lay Captain Smollett, and in a far corner, only duskily flickered over by the blaze, I beheld great heaps of coin, quadrilaterals built of bars of gold. That was Flint's treasure that we had come so far to seek, and that had cost already the lives of 17 men from the Hispaniola. How many had it cost in the amassing? What blood and sorrow! What good ships scuttled on the deep! What brave men walking the plank blindfold! What shot of cannon! What shame of lies and cruelty! Perhaps no man alive could tell. Yet there was still 3 upon that island. Silver, that old Morgan, and Ben Gunn, who had each taken his share in these crimes, as each had hoped in vain to share the reward. Boris! For that amount of money, I would join you. For that amount of money, I will light the fuse. We will blow up my T-rack together. For that amount of money, I will sacrifice the tea. For that amount of money, I would never have to worry. I could pay off my mortgage. It would be great. I wish. Oh, speaking of tea, tea has arrived. Thank you so much. Yay. I have green tea now. Wonderful. Good, my throat kind of needs it. Where was it? I got distracted. Sharing the wood. "Come in, Jim," said the captain. "You're a good boy in your line, Jim, but I don't think you and me'll go to sea again. You're too much of the born favourite for me. Is that you, John Silver? What brings you here, man?" "You could just buy more tea with that one." Exactly! It would be fine. I will literally make a bonfire and sacrifice all the tea I own on that bonfire for that money. Do you think I could do a GoFundMe? And I'll film sacrificing my tea to the gods. I'm drinking my coffee. I switch to tea later in the day. Definitely stay hydrated. Yes! it was a subathon. My brain was like, oh, can it was a subathon goal. If I get to like 1k money somehow in a subathon, I'll sacrifice some to you to the gods. Subathon ideas. I don't know how I'd film it very well on a subathon, but it would probably have to be a film made afterwards. Anyway, I'm getting far too into this idea. Come back to my duty, sir, returned Silver. Ah, said the captain. And that was all he said. What a supper I had of it that night, with all my friends around me, and what a meal it was, with Ben Gunn's salted goat and some delicacies, and a bottle of old wine from the Hispaniola. Never, I am sure, were the people gayer or happier, and there was Silver, sitting back almost out of the firelight, but eating heartily, prompt to spring forward when anything was wanted, even joining quietly in our laughter, the same bland, polite, obsequious seaman of the voyage out. Oh, the last? As in, like, the actual last chapter? It is the last chapter! Oh my, we might be finished with this. Oh god, I thought we'd have a bit longer. I'm very good at getting books planned when we get to the end of the next book. I have one book lined up, but I said something about potentially reading some fact books. Non-fiction fact books. We hope they're actually fact books. So I need to look up some stuff. And we shall see. But for now, chapter 34. The next morning, we fell early to work. For the transportation of this great mass of gold nearly a mile by land to the beach, and thence 3 miles by boat to the Hispaniola, was a considerable task for no small number of workmen. 3 fellows still aboard the island did not greatly trouble us. A single sentry on the shoulder of the hill was sufficient to ensure us against any sudden onslaught, and we thought, besides, they had more than enough of fighting. Therefore the work was pushed on briskly. Gray and Ben Gunn came and went with the boat, while the rest during their absences piled treasure on the beach. 2 of the bars slung in rope's end make a good load for a grown man, one that he was glad to walk slowly with. For my part, I was not much use at carrying. I was kept busy all day in the cave, packing the minted money into bread bags. Oh, Lord. So much money! Could you imagine that amount of money in change? It's like, there was an art piece once, I think, where it was like a grain of rice was like £100. And then, like, visually being able to see how much, like, 1,000,000 was, or 100 million, or just 1,000 was. And it was really cool. Could you imagine that with this? Because there's no way one of those coins is like £100. There'd be so much to carry. And Ben Gunn's already done this once. This is the 2nd time he's had to lug all this around. Crazy. Me try buying a pack of goat. Can you make change for this? Don't worry, just take it to your local corner shop and ask them to exchange. Do your supermarkets have those machines? You can take them to the machine where you can put all your change in the machine, and then you get a voucher of that amount of money, minus a little bit for like machine maintenance for the shop. It was a strange collection, like Billy Bones' hoard for the diversity of coinage, but so much larger and so much more varied that I think I never had more pleasure than in sorting them. English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Georges and Louises, doubloons and double guineas and mordios and sequins and pictures of all the kings of Europe for the last 100 years. Strange oriental pieces stamped with what looked like wisps of string or bits of spiderweb, round pieces and square pieces and pieces bored through the middle as if to wear them round your neck. Nearly every variety of money in the world must, I think, have found a place in that collection. For number, I am sure they were like autumn leaves, so that my back ached with stooping and my fingers with sorting them out. But imagine being that person that makes a big purchase and making the poor staff count up the coins. That's the worst. That is the absolute worst. I'd feel cruel doing that. And you know what? Here was a bit kind of a weird thing about going to Japan. This was like 6 years ago I went to Japan. But they kind of like change over there. Like, we kept paying with like notes and stuff like we would here. Like, you don't want to, like, we're hard-coded more in the West. Not, I don't know if it's an Asian thing, or at least just Japan, to not pay with like small change. But they would prefer, like, even if it's small change, it's like the specific change. They have like little trays that you put the change on, and then they'll just take the tray rather than like picking up the little bits. It's really cool. We kept kind of like having too much change, but they didn't mind the change at all there. They'd rather you just like pay specifically than just keep giving notes. It was definitely a strange culture thing there. Day after day this work went on. By every evening a fortune had been stowed aboard, but there was another fortune waiting for the morrow, and all this time we heard nothing of the 3 surviving mutineers. At last, I think it was on the 3rd night, the doctor and I were strolling on the shoulder of the hill, where it overlooks the lowlands of the isle, when, from out the thick darkness below, the wind brought us a noise between shrieking and singing. It was only a snatch that reached our ears, followed by the former silence. "Heaven forgive them," said the doctor. "'Tis the mutineers." "All drunk, sir?" Struck. "All drunk, sir?" Stuck in the voice of Silver from behind. Struck. Silver, I should say, was allowed his entire liberty, and in spite of daily rebuffs, seemed to regard himself once more as quite a privileged and friendly dependent. Indeed, it was remarkable how well he bore these slights, and with what unwearying politeness he kept on trying to integrate himself with all. Yet I think none treated him better than a dog, unless it was Ben Gunn, who was still terribly afraid of his old quartermaster, or myself, who had really something to thank him for, although, for that matter, I suppose, I had reason to think even worse of him than anybody else, for I had seen him meditating a fresh treachery upon the plateau. Accordingly, it was pretty gruffly that the doctor answered him. "Drunk or raving?" said he. "Right you are, sir," replied Silver, "and precious little odds which to you and me." "I suppose you would hardly ask me to call you a humane man," replied the doctor with a sneer, "and so my feelings may surprise you, Master Silver, but if I were sure they were raving, as I am morally certain at least, one of them is down with fever, I should leave this camp, and at whatever risk to my own carcass, take them the assistance of my skill." "Ask your pardon, sir, you would be very wrong," quoth Silver. Quoth. "You would lose your precious life, and you may lay to that." I definitely need a drink. "And you may lay to that. I'm on your side now, hand and glove, and I shouldn't wish for you to see the partly weakened, let alone yourself, seeing as I know I owes you. But these men down there, they couldn't keep their word. No, not supposing they wished to. And what's more, they couldn't believe as you could. No, said the doctor. You're the man to keep your word, we know that. Well, that was about the last news we had of the 3 pirates. Only once we heard a gunshot a great way off, and supposing them to be hunting, a council was held, and it was decided that we must desert them on the island, to the huge glee, I must say, of Ben Gunn, and with the strong approval of Grey. We left a good stock of powder and shot, the bulk of the salt goat, a few medicines and some other necessities, tools, clothing, a spare sail, a fathom or 2 of rope, and, by the particular desire of the doctor, a handsome present of tobacco. That was about our last doing on the island. Before that, we had got the treasure stowed and shipped enough water and the remainder of the goat meat in case of any distress. And at last, one fine morning, we weighed anchor, which was about all that we could manage, and stood out of North Inlet, the same colours flying that the captain had flown and fought under the palisade. The 3 fellows must have been watching us closer than we thought, for, as soon as we proved, for coming through the Narrows, we had to lie very near the southern point, and there we saw all 3 of them kneeling together on a spit of sand, with their arms raised in supplication. It went to all our hearts, I think, to leave them in that wretched state, but we could not risk another mutiny, and to take them home for the gibbet would have been a cruel sort of kindness. The doctor hailed them and told them of the stores we had left, and where they were to find them. But they continued to call us by name and appeal for us, for God's sake, to be merciful and not leave them to die in such a place. At last, seeing the ship still bore on her course, and was now swiftly drawing out of earshot, one of them, I know not which it was, leapt to his feet with a hoarse cry, whipped his musket to his shoulder, and sent a shot whistling over Silver's head through the mainsail. After that we kept under cover of the bulwarks, and when next I looked out, they had disappeared from the spit, and the spit itself had almost melted out of sight in the growing distance. That was, at least, the end of that. And before noon, to my inexpressible joy, the highest rock of Treasure Island had sunk into the blue round sea. We were so short of men that everyone on board had to bear a hand, only the captain laying on a mattress in the stern and giving his orders, for though greatly recovered, he was still want of quiet. We laid her head for the nearest port in Spanish America, for we could not risk the voyage home without fresh hands, and as it was, what with baffling winds and a couple of fresh gales, we were all worn out before we reached it. It was just at sundown when we cast anchor in the most beautiful land-locked gulf, and were immediately surrounded by shore boats full of people, and people selling fruits and vegetables and offering to dive for bits of money. The sight of so many good-humoured faces, the taste of the tropical fruits, and above all the lights that began to shine in the town made a most charming contrast to our dark and bloody sojourn on the island. And the doctor and the squire, taking me along with them, went ashore to pass the early part of the night. Here they met the captain of an English man of war, fell in talk with him, went aboard his ship, and in short had so agreeable a time that day was breaking when we came alongside the Hispaniola. It's fine. It's a product of its time. We just skip over the bad words. It's okay. No panic. It's fine. Ben Gunn was on deck alone, and as soon as we came on board, he began, with wonderful contortions, to make us a confession. Silver was gone. The Maroon had connived at his escape in a shore boat some hours ago. Kind of amazing we never ran into... Honestly, yeah. I am very... we had gypsy, which is a questionable word nowadays, but I am very impressed we never had that word. The Maroon had connived at his escape in a shore boat some hours ago, and he now assured us he had only done so to preserve our lives, which would have certainly been forfeit. That man with one leg had stayed aboard. But this was not all. The sea cook had not gone empty-handed. He had cut through a bulkhead unobserved, and had removed one of the stacks of coins, worth perhaps 300 or 400 guineas, to help him on his further wanderings. Yeah, maybe. I think we were all pleased to be so cheaply quit of him. Well, to make a long story short, we got a few hands on board, made a good cruise home, and the Hispaniola reached Bristol just as Mr. Blandley was beginning to think of fitting out her consort. 5 men, only those who had sailed, returned with her. Drink and the devil had done for the rest, with a vengeance. Although, to be sure, we were not quite in so bad a case as that other ship. They sang out, "With 1 man of a crew alive, what put to sea with 75. All of us had an ample share of the treasure, and used it wisely or foolishly, according to our natures. Captain Smollett is now retired from the sea. Gray not only saved his money, but being suddenly smit with the desire to rise, also studied his profession, and he is now mate and part owner of a fine full-rigged ship, married besides, and the father of a family. As for Ben Gunn, he got £1,000, which he spent or lost in 3 weeks, or to be more exact, in 19 days, for he was back begging on the 20th. Then he was given a lodge to keep, exactly as he had feared upon the island, and he still lives a great favourite, although something of a butt, with country boys, and a notable singer in church on Sundays and Saints' days. Of Silver we have heard no more. That formidable seafaring man with 1 leg has at last gone clean out of my life, but I dare say he has met his wife, and perhaps still lives in comfort with her and Captain Flint. It is to be hoped so, I suppose, for his chances of comfort in another world are very small. The bars Silver and the arms still lie, for all that I know, where Flint buried them, and certainly they shall lie there for me. Oxen and wain ropes would not bring me back again to that accursed island, and the worst dreams that ever I have are when I hear the surf booming about the coast, or start upright in my bed with the sharp voice of Captain Flint still ringing in my ears. "Pieces of 8! Pieces of 8! Oh, that's it! That's it! We done! We did it! Damn. Treasure Island! Done! I forgot the Project Gutenberg books have, like, a lot of stuff at the end. Like, a lot. Oh, there's a map! Oh, and then we just have all the illustrations. Do you want to just go through them? So we got the mat. And so, another story ends with a child traumatized for life. Indubitably. He's traumatized, but at least he never has to think about his finances for the rest of it. If he plays it right. Because obviously Ben Gunn managed to blow it in 3 weeks. So, impressive. Wow. Book. We did it. And we have all the illustrations. Dr. Lively's badass entrance. I remember that. And, oh, the black dog. We never saw the black dog again, did we? Good old Billy Bones. Wow, big. Wow, big. I should drink my tea more. That's true. Oh yeah, the blind guy was kind of scary. I believe stock speculation was a thing at the time, so plenty chances to lose it all. I see, that makes sense. Billy and Boners, who died when the black spot came around. This is when he died. And this is when Mother was like, I won't take anything but my dues, even though this is probably ill-gotten gains, and I may as well. I thought they'd be a bit more about, like, how Jim spent the money, like how he went back to his mum, and his mum was happy to see. You know, like in Treasure Planet, when he comes back, and he's clearly, like saved the inn, and all that sort of stuff. The blind man being terrifying. Jim is so small. He's just a baby. And he's killed a man now. There's blood on this baby's hands. Yes. The sea cook. Oh, he's so small. Treasure Planet is a good adaptation, I will say. But they didn't spend much time on the island in Treasure Planet, whereas most of this book is spent on the island. So it's very interesting the way they've done that. I love this one. He's so small. Bloody baby hands. He does have bloody baby hands. Look at this sweet boy. He's like half of Silver's height. It's hilarious. Stop him, it's the black dog! Captain Smollett. Captain Smollett. Oh, the apple barrel. Oh, the apple barrel. I wonder if this apple barrel will be plot relevant. I think it's plot relevant. Here's to ourselves and puffy of prizes and plenty of duff. One more cheer for Captain Smollett. Imagine coming home and telling Mum you can buy her a boathouse and some protection money, and it's just VHM victory. Yeah. Jim is the original Solid Snake. He is. The shore adventure. So this is the stockade. Oh, that's when Silver was really scary. When he watched Silver hunt down and murder a man. That was terrifying. Went at him like a beast. It was awful. Look at it. I'm surprised Jim could ever get that out of his head. Hello, Ben. Ben Goon. Treasure Planet had a badass cat girl Navy captain. That's true. Captain Smollett was a cool Navy captain kitty cat, which is very good. And the Squire and the Doctor were both a bumbling dog. Can't argue with logic. Really can't. If only we knew at the time, and maybe the film wouldn't have lost a... That's because Disney didn't push it. Disney had, like, the worst marketing for it ever. It was awful. They didn't push it. They should have pushed it. It's very good. I'll go watch it again. Now I want a moment to be real. Maybe we should do a bit of Goo Goo Dolls. Down dog, cries the captain. So this is when they had to run off and get to the stockade. And this is when they were shooting at them with the cannon. And they found the stockade. I ran to the door in time to see Jim Hawkins safe and sound climbing up the other side. Yes, when Jim ran off and came back with Ben Gunn. Or at least, like, came back with knowledge of Ben Gunn. Oh yeah, and a guy got shot while they were dealing with the stockade. And then Silver came to visit them. Disney did not market it properly. And then got big mad and stopped making 2D films. Disney does that. Disney's like, we don't actually like this film and we don't want it to do well, so we're gonna not market it and then blame it on the things we don't like about this film. It does that. They're very good at that. Disney's snatching financial. There's not even financial failure. It's just they're self-sabotaging things so they have an excuse not to do it in the future, which is awful. Oh, and then the Battle of the Stockade. This bit was like dreadful. The sea adventure section, dreadful. He got marooned in a tiny little boat. Oh, we did have the Yowie bit though. We had these two going at it. I heard that they wanted to stop doing 2D and intentionally. Yeah, exactly. Well, things like what was that? Wild. There was one recently they did. It had like a gay couple that you couldn't just cut out for China. That was another Strange Planet or something like that. And that one didn't get pushed very well. And I think they wanted to blame that on that. Thing that Black Panther 2. There's like ones that they don't want to do well. Strange World, that's it. Yeah, I think Disney just, like I said, they don't want something to do well. They won't let it do well. Every story is a sprinkle of Yowie to make it better. Correct! Oh. Like I said, this was a bit harrowing at times. Like, Jim nearly just died of starvation and thirst during this section. It was awful. And then he came on board, and then there was already a dead body, and then Israel Hands here tried to bloody murder him. So we had to shoot him? My boy had to kill a man. Terrifying. Disney loves being inclusive, unless it affects the bottom line in China. Yes they do. And then we went in, and then last part, Silver being a badass and talking down 5 able-bodied men. 5 able-bodied men trying to find an excuse to not have to fight the scary crippled man. Silver's way of dealing with this was amazing. Just like I said, 5 able-bodied men, armed, could have just shot him. Could have just fought him. He is disabled, but Silver, by pure presence, terrifies them to the bone. It's so good. What a badass. And I'm not saying Silver wouldn't have gotten a shot off and killed at least one of them himself, but you know, they would have won. There's a reason Silver had to like play his pieces so carefully. He knew they didn't stand a chance. But he scared them that badly. So good. Silver has the terrifying presence perk. It's very, very handy. Charisma is not a dump stat, folks. It is not. And that's why he's the template for all pirates. Yes, he is! He's missing his peg leg, though. When does the peg legs come in? Like, where did the peg leg come from? Wait, that came from Billy, didn't it? Did Billy Bones have a peg leg? Someone had a peg leg in this one, didn't they? And then they went off, and we did all this. And there's Ben going in the tree, freaking him out. And I'm getting shot. And our final one, keeping him busy. And that is all. That's all that's in there. We did it. We found the treasure and we got safely back home. And I have no idea what I'm going to read now. No clue. I'm going to get Gutenberg up. I found on the Reddits a list of history books on Gutenberg. Let me see if I can find that again. History books on Gut. What was it? Free history books. So I want to maybe go through some of those with you. 100 free memoirs and autobiographies on Gutenberg. I don't want to go memoirs and autobiographies. 100 free history books on Project Gutenberg. I'm gonna share this screen with you so that we can have a quick look through ourselves. Oh no, you can see what communities I'm in. So I want to go through them, and like, if there's any that sound interesting to you guys, let me know. So apparently there's loads of these. If you would like me to put the link to these threads in Discord, I will. Because there's 103 mythology books. That could also be very fun. So on Iliad, Odyssey, obviously. Myths and Legends of Ancient Greece. I got distracted. One history book. So Federalist Papers. The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Sounds great. Peloponnesian. A narrative of captivity and restoration of Mrs. Mary Wollaston. 12 Years a Slave. Personal Memoirs of U.S. Grant. Declaration of Independence. I don't really want to do an American one. I don't really care. I don't want to read about America. I'm good, thanks. Rome is obviously one. Rome and Greece is going to be a popular one. A lot of these are US based. History of the World War. World Wars are interesting. I like reading about the World War. Which isn't really the world, but you know. Tales of Arctic Heroism. Shakespeare. Oh, we could do a bit of Shakespeare. That would be fun. No, a lot of these are presidencies. Exactly. I don't want to learn about America. You guys, some of you got forced to learn about America. I know far too much about America for someone who doesn't bloody live there. I want to read about different things. The Drawings of Leonardo da Vinci by Leonardo da Vinci is apparently there. Oh, actually no, this is one I would read about America. A Short History of Salem Village Witchcraft Trials. That I would read about. 10 years and 10 months in lunatic asylums in different states. Okay, that one would also be interesting. How the Poor, Horrible live in London. Burial customs of the ancient Greeks. Would we like to learn about that? An artist in Egypt. Oh, Egyptians might be fun. Women's bathing and swimming costumes in the United States. Yeah, most of these books are about America. If they're not about America, ancient Egypt! Yay! You may suggest a non-Western novel, as long as I can find it. I'm happy to read it, and obviously as long as it's not, like, copyrighted. Hey, this one's from England, A History of Witchcraft in England. Famous Men of the Middle Ages, that could be fun. Most of these are American. A manual of Egyptian archaeology and a guide to the study of antiquities in Egypt. That's quite cool. We're down to the 80s to get to, like, out of America, though. No, maybe the mythology one would be more fun, then. So, Odyssey, Myths and Legends of Ancient Greeks, plays of Sophocles, myths of Cherokee, myths and legends in general, myths and legends of China. That could be fun. Do they have the Tibetan Book of the Dead? Maybe. Nori mi tangere. Touch Me Not. It's a sequel of El Filibusterissimo. You have to live with me butchering a lot of pronunciations. Yeah, Myths and Legends of China, Demonology and Devil Lore, that could be fun. 1,000 mythological characters briefly described. Many, so many. Myths of Babylonia and Assyria. Ooh, very old there. Children of Old Norse myths. It has English translations. Wonderful. If you can find it, stick it in the suggested. But it looks like if we're gonna go into it, if we're gonna go into sort of some non-fiction, it's myths, so it's kind of fiction. We're probably gonna go into, I think, more myths and legends side of things by the looks of it, because these are generally a bit more interesting. Like the Babylonia ones, like that's the oldest myths and legends we got. Can't go much older than Babylonia and stuff. Myths and Legends of Japan, always interesting. Tales of Troy. Myths of Mexico and Peru. Oh, that could be fun too. British goblins! I'm a British goblin. British goblin, Welsh folklore, fairy mythology, legends and traditions. That sounds great. Yeah, so it might be a few of these, potentially. So if there's any particular weird lore you would like to learn about, a book about me, I know, British goblins. Get it in the suggestions. We will have a look. But I think I'm probably going to pick from this. Planet lore? Plant lore, not planet. Sorry, plant lore. Plant lore. Myths of Hiawatha and other oral legends, mythologic and allegoric of North American Indians. Oh, we could do I'd be happy to do Native American lore. That's more interesting than, like, normal American lore. Japanese fairy tale sounds fun. I think these ones might be a little bit shorter as well, potentially, so we might be able to get through them a bit faster. We'll see. We shall see. But anyway, now we've got something of an idea of what we're reading next week. Here we have the fiendish Brainy Rowe-Schmeef, who stalks the moors of Yorkshire, stealing travellers' puddings and brewing the tea and leaving it to go cold. The Hiawatha is a story from the Iroquois, again, I'm going to butcher some of these pronunciations, tribe, or as they want to call themselves, Haudenosaunee. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna learn about cultures, and it's gonna be great. Look at all of these. We could try and make our way down this whole list. Wouldn't that be fun? We could random roll it. We could random roll a book. Yeah, no need to be too America focused. There are many diverse options in classic public domain literature. Yeah, and I'm excited to do so. But for now, I do have to end the stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, everyone in chat. Thank you, anyone who lurked. Thank you, everyone who watched this VOD. I hope you enjoyed this rendition of Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And I hope you enjoy. Coming up, some lovely stories about mythologies from all over the world. I do hope. I hope we can learn more about other cultures and a lot of other things. I'm dead excited, honestly, very excited to learn some stuff. Education. But I'll have to wait for next week, because for now we are ending. If you have not already, I would highly appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you have not already on Twitch, I'd highly appreciate it if you give the channel a cheeky little follow. That would be wonderful. Thank you for the stream, Bryony. May as well get all the 700,000 pounds in 1970. Ah! Kitties. In our long pant pockets. Oh, I wish we could fit it in our long pant pockets. Look at all the emotes. Love it. Love it. Have fun. If you have joined the Discord, done all that stuff, I have to do my shilling now. Then I'd appreciate it if you have some spare money, if you'd like to go into the links in the description and go onto YouTube membership and get ebooks exclusive streams, chat commands, Discord channel, and merch discounts. There is the Patreon where you get short stories, exclusive streams, merch discounts, and free books. There is the Kofi, where if you like my emotes that are being spammed in the chat, as you can see, and you would like to commission me for your own, you can do so via my Kofi. And last but not least is my merch store, where you can get ebooks, first edition copies of books that I've written, bookmarks, crochet potatoes, a notebook, and a very soft pillow. But for now, I am done. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I will see you guys tomorrow. Maybe more game dev, most likely tomorrow. But until then, I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Bryony Westwood, Land of Been Library. Goodbye.